Awesome. Module number 8. This is actually our last lecture. Believe it or not, we are at the last lecture. I am bringing up my notes. In the meantime, make sure to do the Do I Know This? Of course. So chapter 9 in the textbook is basically one big long string of tools that you can use. And I kind of thought that makes for a very lame discussion or lecture. Not really a lecture. So what I decided to do instead was to give you a list of tools. Now, these tools, of course, are not at all in any way, shape, or form comprehensive, because there are so many that you could use. But these are the ones that are mentioned in the book. A lot of these you've worked with already, whether, oh, not getting sound, no, okay, you're getting sound, okay, good. Anyway, yeah, some of these tools you've already worked with before, like Metasploit, Nmap, Shouten, Kali, and so on. So there are some that you've already used and some that you may not have. My honest suggestion is find the tools that you like, find tools that you find useful, and focus on using them well. Because one of the odd things about Kali is that it's loaded with tools, but it's a lot of the tools you may not even touch because either you're not exposed to them or you really just don't need them. Like when I normally work on something in the cloud, I'll just install Debian or create a Debian image, install only the tools I need, and get to work, rather than getting the whole meta package and doing all of that work. Because there might be just a bunch of tools that I'm not even going to use, so I'm just wasting time downloading and installing. Check these tools out, see which ones you like, see which ones work best for you, and really focus yourself on being able to use them. Because it's not good having a bunch of tools if you can't use them. And being really good at a couple of tools will help you stay focused and being able to do jobs effectively. That we can move on to the last chapter, chapter 10, with another Do I Know This? The post-engagement activities. After all the testing phases are completed, the next phase is important as your tools can most likely cause residual effects on the systems that you tested. For example, in SQLi, the database should be reverted or restored to a previous state to clean up any fake data or malicious scripts. Tools can leave residual files or data that you need to ensure are clean from the target system. Having the client or the system owner validate the cleanup is sufficient is also a best practice and is a professional courtesy. Some example items that should be cleaned up are any user accounts that you create, any shells spawned on exploited systems, database input created by automated tools or manual, and any tools installed or that were run from the systems under test. Your pen test report is important as it is the final deliverable. It is what you are paid to produce as a result of your pen testing efforts. You should always create a report, even if you're conducting an internal only evaluation for your company or organization or whatever. This report serves purposes like proof of the completed work, evidence of your efforts your company has made to identify any security issues with the environment. You want to be able to prove your due diligence to test and secure your company's environment, and that is achieved through a report. If you're a third-party pen tester hired to perform a test for a customer, that report is your final deliverable, your proof of the work performed and the findings that came from your effort. You want it to be detailed so that the customer can begin addressing the findings. If a customer finds a false positive in your report, that can cost a lot of time and money and could jeopardize your future work with your client. So be sure that the things you find are true. Be sure that you don't have any false positives, and definitely have your report created. Speaking of report, since it is very important, knowing your audience is chief in the aspects for writing your report. If you write a report that is only highly technical for highly technical audiences, then it's not, and you deliver it to a group who's not technical, that report will not show its value and the hard work will go unnoticed. A clearly written executive summary is important because it breaks down the technical findings into summary explanations and provides enough information that all technical levels can understand the result and see the value in the deliverable. Though the technical details will be covered in other sections, it's important to consider not only who you are delivering the report to, but also who they will be passing it along to. Avoid cutting and pasting. Tools have weird capacities to export and may not have everything uniform. You might have some false positives or negatives in the results. So you definitely need to carefully review those results and output, and any tool's output determine what it actually means to the target. Here's where you also have to take into consideration the business of the target to determine the impact on that environment. So here's where you would compile a plan for how the findings should be prioritized and addressed. As I kind of mentioned, you have to relate your findings to the environment. So what that SSH is open if and they're not using a secure password. If it's internal and it's on a air-gapped network, maybe that is okay. You have to look at the environment. You have to look at the environment. You have to look at your reports and be able to indicate the risks and also look at how things are being used, because there may be something that they're doing that's horrible, but maybe the environment either has to allow it or it's a legitimate way around a certain technology or a certain feature. So don't just stomp on them. Definitely look at, as you're writing your report, how it applies in the environment that it's the target is being worked in. Also, start the report while you are testing. The most accurate and comprehensive way to compile a report is to start collecting and organizing your results while you are testing. During that phase, you'll come across findings that you'll need to document, to take screenshots or video of the tools used, your steps, and your outcome. That'll help you piece together the scenario that triggered the finding, and it'll help you illustrate it for the end user, especially if they're not highly technical, or even if they are technical. So you can include these parts in your report with visual proof so that your audience can get a full picture and understand your findings. In the notes, I put a link to Dradis, a tool that can help you pull results from other tools into a report. They do have a professional version. I suggest checking the free, playing around with it, and let me know if you find it useful and you actually use it for your reports. Your common report elements. You'll have things like the executive summary, your methodology, your findings, metrics, and measurements, and your recommendations. In the notes, I gave you a great reference for all aspects of the pen testing process out of PCI DSS. So check that out. It's a PDF from 2015, but it's a great reporting guideline and a starting point to building your report template. So the executive summary, going back a bit, should provide enough information for anyone reading the report to get a clear idea of what the results are. It won't have the details of every finding, but it should have enough that a reader can skim through and get the gist of what this whole report is. So things like brief summary of findings, timeline, the test scope or summary of test scope, who did the testing, the summary of the metrics, objectives, and a brief description of the most critical findings. And your methodology, you can talk about the process, the details of the process you followed. So it's best to start with a proven methodology and modify it as you see fit. And if you're wondering what methodologies, we covered that in chapter 1. So feel free to go back to chapter 1 to check out the list of methodologies that we talked about. For us, that is module 2. It was the 4th week after we spent the 3 weeks doing the tools. Defining metrics and measurements will provide data to show the value of your effort by making the information important in your presentation to management. Using standards like CVSS can increase the value of your report. Definitely use something that is common. And you're finding recommendations for remediation. This is the meat of the report. The information provided here is what will be used to move forward with remediation and mitigation of the issues found in the environment being tested. This section should provide all the technical details necessary that teams like IT, InfoSec, and DevOps need to address the issues found in the testing phase. Again, keeping in mind your audience. So in the executive summary, you don't want to get overtly technical. You definitely want to show your professionalism so that anyone who's reading this can understand. But by the time you hit the recommendations for remediation, now we're talking technical. Now we can have that detailed information. Lastly, or second to last, understanding your best practices. You must ensure to follow strict handling procedures with regards to your report. The contents of a pen testing report are very sensitive and should be treated as highly confidential. If the engagement involved a Department of Defense owned system, the contents of the report could call under international traffic in arms regulations. and mishandling of the report could result in millions of dollars in fine and or imprisonment. These reports are no joke. The classification of a report's content is driven by the organization that the pen test has been performed on and its policies on classification. In some cases, the report is considered top secret. However, as a rule of thumb, you should always consider report contents as highly classified and distribute them on a need-to-know basis only. So keep that in mind. Your report, your deliverable, the whole proof that this is why you should get paid to do what you do, is normally considered top secret and should be dealt with in that way. There are two ways to distribute your report, as a hard copy or electronically. When meeting with your stakeholders, they're going to want a hard copy in front of them as you walk through the readout of the findings, which should, again, be handled with care. I have a list of some best practices. As always, feel free to add more, remove as needed, depending on your engagement. Produce a limited number of copies. Define the distribution list in the scope of work. So who's going to get this? Label each copy with a specific ID or number that is tied to the person it is distributed to. So in case of a leak, you can follow. Label each copy with the name of the person it is distributed to. Keep a log of each hard copy, including who it was distributed to and the date of distribution. Ensure each copy is physically and formally delivered to the designated recipient. If transferring over the network, ensure the document is encrypted and the transportation method is as well. Ensure the handling distribution of an electronic copy is even more restrictive, like controlling distribution on a secure server owned by the department that initially requested the pen test, providing one copy directly to the client or the requesting party, and using a secure method for deleting all collected information and any copy of the report from your machine. Again, this report is the whole point to what we do. It is how we get paid. And it is definitely no light matter on how it will be dealt with. Keep that in mind as you go forth into the world pen testing. It may be a whole lot of fun, but there's quite the risk with it. Any questions? Okay. Now let me